So Carson, you had. I just want to get a couple perspectives from a little bit of a younger person. So you're part of the crew, obviously. I heard that you weren't part of the A team though. What's the deal with that?
So we got split up into 2 different shifts because the boat doesn't stop moving. You have to be sailing it 24/7, you know. So we're doing 8 hours, or we had different shifts, 2 different teams. One team was awake for 8 hours while the other was off. Then the other team was on for 8 hours while they had it off. Then it was 4 and 4, you know. So an 8-hour shift, had 8 off, 4 on, 4 off.
And then we did 1-hour rotations through each of those 8-hour shifts through different stations on the ship that you had to maintain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we kind of went over that with Boyd. He was saying, sometimes you're at the helm, sometimes you're cleaning, sometimes you're cooking, sometimes there's all these different jobs that have to be done. But let me just break for just a second. So, as a woman, did you get more jobs doing certain things? Or
no,
it was a straight rotation.
No, it's just the same for us.
Yeah.
You need to do the same.
So you had to eat the men's cooking? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Well, some people cook well.
So I would typically pawn off my cooking duty.
Yes.
I would swap it with Carson or somebody else and pick up their cleaning.
That's what I would be doing.
So that's what I'm doing.
If I had to cook for myself, I would starve. And I probably would lose weight. But
so there was a little bartering of that going on.
Okay, so you could make switch shifts of different things.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
we can.
Well, now you said that you had some really cool stories. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, a lot comes to mind.
All right. Well, what was one of your favorite ones?
One of my favorite ones, one night, I don't know if you remember, you probably remember, the bioluminescence that was going on beneath the ship. We were going through this bioluminescent algae, and there were jellyfish that were lighting up and everything. It was at night, and I remember I was on lookout. So I'm walking around the ship, kind of keeping my eyes open, looking around, looking at the stars. But I'm pretty distracted by the water. I'm not going to lie, you know, because I've never seen bioluminescence till this point in my life.
I mean, how many people have?
I know, right?
I've never seen it.
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah, okay, so you're in the middle of bioluminescence.
Yeah, and finally, after a while of keeping lookout, I look down and I see these dolphins swimming through the bioluminescence, leaving like these trails of light underneath the boat. You know, and they're coming out of the water, porpoising in and out, leaving these just Tron trails, it almost looked like.
Really?
Yeah. So that was one of the amazing stories, one of the great things I got to see on that.
Yeah.
But there was this other time where, you had so many stories from Tunisia, being able to see plenty of different ruins, meeting a bunch of different people. In Algiers, there were, I think, only 2 or 3 people that got day passes to be able to be actually let into Algiers. And I was fortunate enough to be one of them, so I was able to go see the large mosque that was there, go around town, buy some supplies. It was a good amount of fun.
Wow.
There was one point where we were surrounded by a large pod of pilot whales. And there were probably 40 or 50.
Wow.
A pilot whale is not a big whale. It's probably 3 or 4 or 5 times the size of a dolphin. Yeah. But there were lots of them.
So probably like 10 feet long, maybe?
Or longer, a small one,
15 feet?
10 to 15 feet. Anyway, Carson hopped in the water with them.
I tried. They didn't want any part of me.
Hey, but I thought the rule was don't get out of the ship.
Well, we had Philip's permission. We had sort of we had lowered the sail, and we were.
So it was kind of just.
Yeah, we were drifting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I think we jumped together in the water, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. I had a camera, and it's funny because when this. The pirates leaving because we jumped the water, so they would run. But I remember there was one that stopped and looked at us. So I have a picture of one, keeping, taking care of the rest of the whales as they left. This one just turned and waited and looked at us. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. Swimming with pilot whales.
Yeah.
Wow.
Attempting to.
Well, that is some really cool experiences. So any other particular experiences that you'd like to share?
Well, he talked about the night shift. It's really nice because we have stars. I love sailing with stars. You know, we look for one star and we keep it going. We don't need to check the compass of the time. You just look at the mast and put together one star and go in front and line. It's beautiful night. It's really nice. And well, it's magical nights at the boat.
Oh yeah, no light pollution, so you get to see a very pretty night sky.
See the Milky Way and everything going on above us all the time. That is beautiful.
The noise of the water, like a music, and the boat and the sails. It's amazing. Yeah.
Oftentimes we get disconnected with nature, you know, doing our day-to-day jobs in the city and whatnot. You know, you hear these experiences, we have these experiences of steering by the stars at night. A sunset on the Mediterranean.
So when you're steering by the stars, basically, you're on the rudder, and the rudder is not down below. The rudder, you're up on top of
the rudder's on the
part of the ship, and you're working it, and you can see the stars, and you can see that in the compass.
Yeah.
That's how that works? Okay. Okay, sorry.
Well, I was just saying that's a wonderful experience, but also, you know, a sunset on the Mediterranean, sailing west into the sun. As the sun dips on the horizon, a lot of people love to see dolphins, you know, in the wild. Don't always get a chance to do that. Sometimes they go to a park to experience the dolphin experience. Yes. And you just wonder how plentiful or scarce they are in the wild. On a sunset afternoon in the Mediterranean, as the sun dips into the horizon, dolphins everywhere.
Yeah.
Off into the distance, nearby, and then off into the distance, just porpoising in and out of the water.
You can see them because the sun's so low that you can see them hop out of the water.
Well, and they like to come check out your ship.
Yeah, but you could look around at any time and see probably like 10 to 20
dolphins at pretty much any time.
And Carson was our master fisherman.
Yes, I was going to ask you. So is that part of your diet then? When you're eating, I know Boyd talked about, you know, there's canned food and there's other
when the fresh
things,
supplies go, you're reduced to canned meat and potatoes and cabbage. And so it's nice to have a resupply of fresh fish.
So what was your favorite fish, Carson?
Well, I only caught one fish the whole time.
You only caught one fish? I thought your dad said
it was difficult.
Well, I mean, you know, you're moving. We didn't really have proper fishing equipment.
Right.
We didn't have deep water lines or anything like that. So pretty much the whole setup was you get a plank of wood and you tie your fishing line around it. You get a nice hook with either a lure or some bait, throw it behind the boat, and just give it half a day. And then see if you got anything.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, I mean, I caught one fish on the boat.
Okay, what kind of fish was it?
It was a dorado, mahi-mahi.
Oh, yeah.
Same kind of deal.
So did you enjoy that?
We did.
Oh, yeah, it was so good.
Because I understand that the first voyage had more fish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You were able to catch more fish. There was less fish in the Atlantic than there was in the Indian Ocean.
Yeah.
This is the problem of the change of the world with plastic and things, you know. And we talk a lot of people about the environment, and they feel the same. The fish is gone. They change. Did
you feel like did you see just bottles of like randomly?
Not a lot of pollution, no. We did make a circle. We looped around to pick up a styrofoam container, and pulled that out. But no, for the most part, the ocean we crossed was pretty clean.
Yeah. Well, we had this partnership with the UN Environmental Program.
Yeah. So you stop and pick up things.
No. There's a program called Clean Seas going on for a few years now, and they measured how much microplastic in the water. So we had a partnership with them. If you look up, we are in their website. So it was Phoenicia was part of official Clean Seas campaign for the UN United Nations Environmental Program. So every day, from Tunisia all the way to Florida, we took samples of water every day. I did that myself. So for all these 5 months.
Put them in little vials and then.
And then we measure how much if we found microplastic in the water, and yes, we found along the way. So there's a lot of microplastic water. It came from the factories where you wash your clothes and stuff. So it's really all over the place. So you don't see, of course, that. You see the big stuff, but you don't see the microplastic. But it's still there. So we Phoenicia contributed to this campaign or this research as well.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so a couple of last things. So overall, from what you began the voyage with, and you had certain expectations, what was the result after you finished your? Let's go with you first because that was the first thing. So you were having an expectation to achieve what at the beginning, and did you feel like that the expedition achieved your expectations? Did it, was it better than your expectations, or and just generally your feeling about what it was like to be a part of this historic project?
Yeah, well, talk about both expeditions. Of course, they took years. They're years apart. The first one, 2008 to 2010. Being part of that was amazing because we did travel back in time. I mean, we're out there with this tool that's the Phoenician ship, based on 600 BC shipwreck and other stuff. So you're really, apart from having cameras and some other electronic device, you're really sailing as they did, or trying to 3,000 years ago. So we're really back in time. So to be able to go around Africa and to prove that the Phoenicians had the technology to do that, long before the Portuguese and other people crossed the Cape of Good Hope and stuff. So it was really amazing. Of course, it was based on a story by Herodotus, the father of history. So he could prove that to that. And when he got back to done the whole thing, and a lot of academics, they look at the Phoenicia and as it is an archaeological experiment, and it's totally solid. So it's very safe to talk about Phoenicia experiment because it's experimental archaeology. And it's real, it's science based. So we read that. So we proved that they had technology. So it was a big accomplishment. So, so first voyage was 2 years and 3 months to do the whole Africa. Yeah. So the second voyage, because we did the ship, and of course it was a 5-month trip from Carthage to Florida. For me, for the original crew, which is Philip, me, and Aziz, German.
Aziz,
it was like relatively easy, like a holiday, because we knew the ship. So it was going to last 2.5 years. So 5 months, it's fine.
No big deal.
It was very easy to cross the Atlantic Ocean on that ship. So it proved that it was easy and possible, because first the ship was not a Phoenician ship; it was a replica. And the Phoenicians in that time, after 1,000 years of technology development, they would have a much better ship. And they would be good Phoenician sailors. We were just trying to emulate that. We were not good sailors, Phoenician sailors. We're just trying to learn as we went. So if you could make it easily, imagine those guys 3,000 years ago. They could have crossed the ocean very, very,
I think one thing I think that's a big deal is that the very first people to do it, you don't know that. The one thing that you had that they didn't have is that you knew that there was something on the other side, and you knew that there was a route that you could go. And we know the ocean currents. We have all these technologies. But what kind of courage do you think it took for ancient people to just set off into the sunset, basically, on a voyage and not knowing if it's going to be 30 days or 3 months before you arrive somewhere? Yeah. What kind of courage do you think that took?
Oh yeah, a lot. Because then again, it was different, the value of life, right? Because these guys, they would start sailing with 10 ships. If 9 ships sank, everybody died. 1 ship survived, it's a success. Yeah. So that's what they did, even the Portuguese after. So it's kind of different. So our ship, we had like 15. The most we had our crew 16. From traveling across the South Africa. So, but these guys would have in the same ship like 120 people, 150 people. So that's different, measure of comfort and. So they're really tough, these guys. So for them, if they lost their lives doing what they believed, they wouldn't be very, they wouldn't really care. They just send another ship. So it was, but of course, it took them a lot of courage. Even the Portuguese, when they start sailing on Columbus and stuff, crossing, they had those voyages to be based on. Columbus actually. Yeah. Columbus knew about the Phoenician voyages and the legend of Phoenician voyages. He wrote about this himself. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So that, I think that's fascinating to think that that even Columbus knew that there were routes that he wouldn't just keep sailing off until they all died.
Yeah. But the early Europeans, with the ship design that they had, they could tack back against the wind.
Yeah. And they had the deep hull,
so they could turn around and come back. With the Phoenicians, the ship was designed with a round bottom, and there was no keel. And so you went where the winds and the currents took you. And so if you didn't like where you were going, or you wanted to turn around and come back, you were pretty much locked into that zone of going where the winds and the currents take you. I think there was a lot. It would have required a lot more courage back then in antiquity to explore into the unknown.
Yeah. Well, and this is one of the things because you two are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and are quite familiar with the Book of Mormon. So based on that, the voyages that were there, what kind of courage do you think it took for Laman and Lemuel and Nephi and Sam and those guys to get on board the ship with their dad?
Well, Nephi saw what his posterity would be doing in the promised land, so to speak.
So they knew they were going to make it.
And so I'm sure he had an element of confidence, and he was like given the instructions on how to build his ship. But it was a move into the unknown.
Yeah, I often think that maybe in the back of Laman and Lemuel's mind and so forth, that if they knew that the Phoenicians, which they came from the Levant area, so they would have known about the Phoenicians. They'd have known about the ships. I find it fascinating to think that when Nephi came down from the mountain, basically with the instructions from the Lord to build a ship and sail it to the promised land, basically, that Laman and Lemuel's first comment wasn't, "What's a ship?" They knew what a ship was. They said, "Our brother's a fool. He thinks he can build a ship," which kind of tells you that they knew something about shipbuilding. They knew it was difficult. They knew that he had no experience as a shipwright.
Well, commerce and trade throughout the Mediterranean had been going on before Lehi's family in 600 BC. Had been going on for another almost 1,000 years before that.
Yeah.
So
it's funny, as a kid growing up and reading the Book of Mormon, I always thought that, wow, this is like the first time anybody built a ship, and so forth.
And that's kind of what brought me to Philip and the Phoenicia, because I think in the church sometimes there's some who have enormous influence who tend to secularize the gospel. And growing up in the church through the church education system, we didn't learn much about the transatlantic or the transoceanic crossings.
Well, in fact, the only crossings I ever heard about was going across the Pacific Ocean to make a West Coast landing on Central America.
Right. So we heard about Thor Heyerdahl and Kon-Tiki, which is a raft.
I heard about that one.
And so as a Norwegian explorer, what Heyerdahl was doing was interesting and maybe important, but it had nothing to do with the ancient maritime technology that the Phoenicians were employing for 1,500 years throughout the Mediterranean and beyond. And so when we saw an opportunity to kick that tire, so to speak, to see what that represented, it was really, we thought it was a great opportunity. That ship was solid. We didn't feel unsafe sailing the ship. I mean, we did have to spend time down below filling
bilge pump.
Well, no, so you had to. There were leaks coming in through the wood, and you had to press wool fibers into the cracks, and there was maintenance that we were doing as we were sailing, but we felt safe, and it was a sturdy, seaworthy vessel.
Yeah, that's interesting because Philip Beale had said that several times about the strength of the ship. It's a strong ship. It's a wonderful, it's a heavy duty ship, and I kind of thought, why the emphasis on that? I mean,
but
you really feel it when you're in
the way
there.
we build the ship.
If we were ancient merchants with the Phoenicia, we could have carried many tons of cargo, on our voyage with us. It was a solid, sturdy, strong ship.
Yeah. So based on your understanding of the Book of Mormon and your faith, you can pretty much count on about one hand how many people of our faith have actually done one of the two voyages that the Phoenicia has done, and that's the reason why I wanted to have you come and kind of share a little bit about that, because how do you think that's affected your faith?
Well, I mean, faith and spirituality are one thing. Being able to find historic corroboration is another, right? What was interesting is since the voyage, I learned about an article that was published in the 1973 Ensign magazine, where Dr. Ross T. Christensen, professor at BYU, sort of presciently talked about possible routes from Mulek coming either southern, around the southern tip of Africa, across the Atlantic, or north from the Mediterranean. He talks about the Phoenicians and Mulek having assistance from the Phoenicians. He talks about the Greek historian Herodotus and how he reported the Phoenicians circumnavigating Africa under Necho II, the pharaoh of Egypt. He talks about a possible connection anciently with Brazil and inscriptions that have been found in Brazil. This was 50 years ago. And I came up, in my education after that and heard nothing about it. And it was 50 years later that Philip pops up. And all of a sudden, Philip has these same talking points. And he builds the ship. And he actually, with all the academic provenance, and establishes, he documents the history of this and the technology and the capability. It's just incredible.
Yeah. So overall, your faith on this whole of the potential validity of a Phoenician ship bringing Europe to America?
Well, my faith was there, but the corroboration makes it more tangible. It's something that you can touch, historically, that becomes real. Joseph Smith was mocked and ridiculed by all the sensational claims that the Book of Mormon brings forward. I mean, if the Book of Mormon is true, and we believe it is, it's sensational. A migration of Israelites from the Eastern Mediterranean to the Western Hemisphere in antiquity, that's sensational. That doesn't comport with the secular narrative of what was happening in the world at that time. And so this corroborates all of that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, Carson, you got the last word here. So so let me ask you a couple quick questions. So
Sure.
had you had an opportunity to really kind of delve into the Book of Mormon account before you went on the trip?
Yeah, we went through it a few times, and I did a little bit of study on my own.
So you're aware of the ramifications of this whole thing.
I was aware of it.
I'm sure with a dad like this, you probably were pretty aware of that. So,
Yeah.
But as a 19-year-old at the time, how do you think this affected your faith? And did you have any experiences that seem to kind of enable and kind of strengthen your faith in God and Book of Mormon and these ancient voyages that are being discussed?
I mean, like my father said, it to me made it more tangible, I would say, because you always hear Bible stories, gospel stories of these wild things happening, and you're like, okay, well, I can't even imagine that happening today, like a big column of fire coming down from the heavens or something like that. So for us to be able to actually do something that can back up what is being said in the Book of Mormon was actually kind of noteworthy, It made it a little more real, in my opinion.
Yeah. How important is that to you?
Well, it's pretty important. I don't know how to necessarily state that. It's going to be pretty important to a lot of people out here, though, I'm sure, as more evidence comes forward.
I think that we don't even realize, and I think that's part of the beauty of the Phoenician ship is that, and the Phoenician expeditions, is that how it brings, like last night when we were at the event with the ambassador of Tunisia, and all these dignitaries all around and so forth, and it was quite a thing when all of a sudden they started the women began to do what they call the Lulu. Because as a kid growing up, I had Johnny West. Maybe somebody's never heard of Johnny West, but there was like all these animals, and they had horses and wagons and stuff, and it was kind of cowboys and Indians, right? Kind of thing. Okay, and there were shows like Gunsmoke and some of these old shows that maybe I don't know if you're even as old as I am. If you remember some of these old shows.
I do.
But whenever the Indians would attack the cowboys, they were always going kind of thing, and I always kind of associated that with an attack. But it's interesting when you talk to the Native American women and so forth that it's what they do at birth. It's what they do at special
A celebration.
celebrations and moments, And what I found is absolutely fascinating is here we have the ambassador of Tunisia and a Tunisian citizen, Yarish, and Betty LaFontaine and Navajo, and they all know how to do this and how and what it affected them so deeply. I mean, almost to their very heart and core, when the ship came into a harbor and they hear the Lulu going on.
When we were in Tunisia, we had a significant amount of time to see the sights and to learn about the culture. And we were at the Punic Harbor, which is an incredible ancient site for the Carthaginians. But there was a residence there that I guess they were celebrating a wedding. And at the time, all of these women sort of they showed up and descended on this site, and they were doing that as they entered the home. It was pretty impressive.
Wow.
You see, and as a kid growing up, this shows you how messed up Hollywood is. Because I would have thought they're attacking the house or something.
It was a
totally
beautiful
the
celebration.
Yeah. So we can't rely on the things that we're shown in the media and that kind of stuff. That's why testimonials of people who've actually done it like this, I think, are so critical. And I think it also does a lot of good for the world and understanding that we're all connected in one way or the other. We ultimately we go back to we believe in Adam and Eve, and the people who were that's why we are all brothers and sisters, and we have a duty and a responsibility to take care of each other, and also take care of our world too. This is also part of our, the Lord, I think, wants us to take care of this beautiful earth that He's created for us. If I had one thing that I could ever do, I think would be to lay out on the deck of the ship in the middle of the night and just look up at the stars on a calm evening and think about the Creator.
Yeah.
Do you have a chance to do that?
Yes.
What was your feelings?
It's amazing because we think about the world is so big and sometimes so
small.
That's it. And it's very, like I said before, it's a magical experience. You can feeling all things coming in your body. You're part of the world. We are, like I said, we are together. We are brothers and sisters. We are special for the world.
You hear the words of the psalmist, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth His handiwork.
Yeah. There's not very many places you can go on any of the continents today where you can get completely away from the world and just be just you and God. Larry, you have any thoughts about that?
Oh, the French, they have a saying. The French say, if you want to learn how to pray, go out to the ocean.
Not only pray for your life, but because you feel a closeness to God in the process.
Yeah.
And as I look at that, so Carson, you're the one that didn't. You kind of actually mentioned that before about being out and seeing the luminous and so forth. But did you ever have a chance to just chill and stare at the stars and think about God?
Yeah. Like I told you about the shifts earlier, how we did 8 on, 8 off, 4 on, 4 off. My 4 off, usually you slept on your time off, because you were tired.
Yeah.
But those 4 hours, it was kind of always like an awkward thing for me, so I never really slept during those 4 hours. I would either be reading or up on the deck, just looking at stuff, or even meditating sometimes. And in those moments, you get this sort of special calmness. And you get this just really awesome time to think, a clear mind, clear space. It's just something special.
Yeah. Is there any other experiences that you feel that you want to share, or what do you think?
Well, there's one interesting
Yes.
That's kind of different from everybody. I've been through a hurricane once, sailing from Brazil to South Africa. That was in 2000. 2001.
2001.
Yeah, I think.
2001.
Yeah, very small. So the different boat, a 40-footer, going with another couple of British friends and another Brazilian friend. So we sailed into this hurricane for 24 hours. So it was like 82 knots of wind.
Wow.
So usually when we're sailing, it gets to 30, 40 knots, you're already kind of scared, so you're going to lower the sails and start to prepare for a storm. So 82 knots is too much for 24 hours. So in that moment, you are prepared to die. I mean, I was really totally prepared to die. Okay, we're going to die here. Either we live or die, but we didn't know what we were doing, luckily. And it was beautiful because, you know, the wind, 80 knots of wind on the water, you have this brightness on the water because the wind is so strong. So it's really beautiful. But then you achieve, which is interesting for me, some peace. Because you know, you're maybe about to leave this world, but that's fine because you're doing what you like. So you're in this situation that so it was a different. I think not many people go through that. And
so you didn't really have fear. It was more of just a peace.
Yeah, it was peace. Yeah, because we knew, everybody about knew. Okay, there's a chance we really gonna die here because we are just past Tristan da Cunha, the islands in the middle of the Atlantic, halfway to Africa. So there's no rescue there. So very cold waters. So it was interesting because I had this. I never had it before, and then I don't think I have the same. But it's really just. So I had 24 hours to have this feeling.
Wow.
It's just interesting.
Wow, that's fantastic. Anybody else?
One thing I'm so happy because Phoenicia is in here. You know, the people like Betty and Mike and John, they keep the Phoenician story. For us, like we are crew members, if Phoenicia back to home to England and stay quiet. And so it's not so important like now. We can be together, we can give all our energy for put this museum up. And people can see and feeling what we felt on the boat.
Yeah.
Well, you are part of this history. That's the reason why this is so important, that this gets preserved.
Yeah.
Long after your lives are done, there'll be people who can watch this and know that there were people from Brazil and from America that got together and did this amazing voyage that was done, over 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, right?
So let's think about this project as well. Sorry, because we do many projects, right? Every year since '95, we do some TV series and stuff. So we do projects with many different people. So every time we finish a project, like we make a movie and release, like we make an IMAX movie in the Amazon with 300 people in the middle of the jungle, and then release the movie. It goes out. I mean, it showed this movie in particular here at Smithsonian for 9 months and then 40 countries, and then that's it. That's gone. But with Phoenicia, what's different is this. The story is so strong. After we finished the project, we arrived here after the second expedition. It just restarted because now I have a lot of different people like you and everybody that's watching, interested in the story. So it's a project that never ended. It's just readjusting and restarting in a bigger way. So there have more groups interested. So that's unique. I think this story is really unique because of that.
Yeah. I think what Yuri's getting at is that the Phoenician culture was, a significant culture.
But most of its history was erased.
They made a significant contribution to. They sort of bound together. They're the bridge between the Egyptians and the Greeks almost. They gave us our alphabet. They developed the Sikh technology to sail, and then they disappeared, and we didn't learn about them. We haven't heard about them, and our experience with Philip and since to learn and study more about the culture has been really enlightening because they were so significant.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating that some of the most interesting ancient histories are the ones that have been erased, which actually is part of what causes the desire to learn more about those cultures, and one of those is the Phoenician culture. Another one I think is the Book of Mormon culture and the Native American culture. There's so much work has been done in many places to understand more fully the culture and the history of the Native American people, but of other peoples, but not as much the Native American people. There seems to be kind of like almost we don't really want to know,
Yeah.
And because of different cultural biases and things that go on there, but But my hope is that that through these kind of interviews and your experiences and so forth, that these amazing voyages will help bring the world together to have more understanding of one another, and hopefully have the true histories of the earth told in a more comprehensive fashion. And that's kind of our hope. All right, so thank you everybody for being here. And so I just want to reiterate, so for those of you who have been watching this, go ahead and hit subscribe. We have a lot of subscribers, but in order for you to see the next things and have them come up automatically, if you'll hit subscribe and do that, that would be really helpful. And also then you won't be left out of any of the great content that we're providing with such amazing individuals here. So again, I want to thank you for doing that. Hit subscribe. Now's a good time. Right now, just right there, right there. Okay, and we will talk to you later. Thank you again so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.